Listen up or run for cover. Dropping knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it. The real Bradley Bombs is dropping.
What it is, Bradley, back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, folks, I got a real treat for you. Even though he's not physically here, we are zooming in because of the COVID crisis that hopefully is ending here pretty soon. But man, I brought someone in here to talk about a little bit of mindset, a little bit of performance, because as soon as this world opens back up, we're going to be out there. I don't want everyone getting their asses kicked. So I brought my man, Dr. Bhrett McCabe. Welcome, Bhrett.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me. I agree with you. Let's kick some ass.
And folks, for those of you that are like, well, who's Bhrett McCabe? Well, listen, let me tell you something. He may not be a freaking TV star, but he is a star in the sports world. He's a practicing sports and performance psychologist who works with numerous athletes from the PGA, LPGA tours, the NFL, the NBA, MMA, mixed martial arts, my fave. And obviously still serves as the sports and performance psychologist for the University of Alabama Athletic Department. So you know what you're doing, basically.
I try. I was faking it, maybe. But
you got a book out there called the MindSide Manifesto, The Urgency to Create a Competitive Mindset, as well as the Game Plan Workbook, which he has developed in order to help athletes, coaches, leaders compete to the best of their ability. Is that about it?
That's about it. We got something new coming, which I'm pumped about, but we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Well, I want to talk about that too.
Yeah.
You also got a podcast, The Secret to Winning. So if you guys like this, mindset, amped up, figure out how to freaking do shit daily habit type things, The Secret to Winning, and of course, Catalyst School virtual training course coming up.
It's coming. It's good too.
And that's for coaches.
Great. It's for anybody who's responsible for leading another human being. If you're a coach, if you're a manager, if you're responsible for somebody else's success, you're catalyst. I mean, nothing is worse than being that dude that, that people work for that go, what an ass, I didn't get any better. I played for a coach for a year and I didn't get any better. Well, that means you didn't reach that player. It's not their fault. We are catalysts for growth, and it's our job to figure out those individuals. And Brad, the opportunity to work across the best coaches in the world and what they do, and to be, on their Rolodex, to be in their contact list where they call and they say, how do I touch this player? How do I reach this player? How do I get them to do what they need to do? To be able to provide them with the psychological skill set to give them actually proven things. It's not about rah-rah. It's not about hype. It's about type. You got to know the player that you're working with. You got to know the person you're leading. You got to know the person you're managing. And if you don't, then we're wasting time and energy. The best people are the spark to lead other people to get better. And if you can be that spark, and the success is exponential. But I'm tired of being in situations where players call me, they're frustrated with their coach, coaches call me, they're frustrated with the player. And the whole issue is that neither have connected to who they are. Neither have connected to the other person, and they don't know how to get better.
Not only that, but it's like people are different.
100%. I call it the psychological fingerprint. Everybody has their own psychological fingerprint. And if we assume that everybody who walks through the door is the same, if we assume that everybody who we're coaching and leading, listen, if we look at a college athletic department for a minute, you're going to have superstars. You're going to have 5-star athletes sitting in there, and then you're going to have walk-ons. If you treat them the same, if you say, okay, I'm going to treat my 5-stars one way, my walk-ons another, you're going to miss the walk-on that becomes a first-round draft pick. And then you're not going to impact the 5-star who comes in with all the hype. Same way in the NFL. The NFL and major college and the PGA Tour, where I do a lot of work, the number one factor of success out there is stubbornness. It's not skills and talent. It's stubbornness. It's the athlete that refuses to give up and finds a way to get it done. They're unbelievably talented individuals sitting on the sidelines every day who can't figure out how to succeed when it matters, when the heat is on, the pressure is high, and they've got all the right potential, but they fail. And they fail because somebody hasn't gotten to them to teach them how to be in the heat of the moment and to find the thread, to find their superpower, to find their weapon that matters. We can hype somebody up all day long and rah-rah them. But if you can't get them to believe in themselves when it matters, they're going to repeat the failure. And I get tired of repeated failure. I get fired when people fail. My players win at a very high rate on the PGA Tour for a reason. And it's because they're prepared for anything that comes their way. I'm fortunate enough to be around the University of Alabama Athletic Department and be around the best college football coach to ever coach the game. I played for
now, is that the Razorbacks?
Yeah. Hey, look, I worked for Bama. I went to LSU. We had a good year this year for LSU football, but the Crimson Tide is, that athletic department, that football program. It's an organization. It's an organization of excellence and accountability at every
legacy.
It's unbelievable.
It's a legacy. See, now Tide fans are going to be hating me because I said, "Is that Razorbacks?" I was just joking.
I know. But it's so cool because what's the difference? I mean, you and I talked about this before. What's the difference of success, right? We can have all the shiny stuff. There's a grit factor. There's a guts factor. There's a willing to get into the darkness and keep swinging. There's to not deal with the easy. The easy makes people complacent. The hard makes people, sharp, and it makes them really, really good at what they do. I'd rather somebody who figures it out than somebody who's born with it. That's just me.
Dude, I mean, it's weird too, because like I tell people, if you want to be comfortable, meaning successful, financially successful, comfortable, rich-wise, I say if you want to be comfortable, you have to literally seek discomfort. And if you it's like a mirror. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if you want to be comfortable, then try to be uncomfortable, because that's where the growth is. That's where the magic happens. So if you want comfort, well, then seek discomfort, because if you seek comfort, you're going to end up uncomfortable, broke.
But think about it. No truly successful person ever stops and goes, I'm tapping out, I'm good. They may start a charitable foundation, but they want to be the best charitable foundation there is, right? They seek that novelty. They seek that uncertainty, because the best are willing to go into the uncertain and find the certainties there. That's the biggest thing that we do. Like, the mind is so powerful. I'm a clinician by heart. I'm a clinician of helping people get through the stuff they got in their life. And when I moved to the performance side, it was so fun because it's the same patterns. It's just not as deep. Okay. So if somebody is sitting there and they're like, why am I not succeeding? Why am I not winning in my job? Well, everybody tells me they work hard, and everybody tells me they want it. The question is, to me, is like, why would I invest in you? And I ask every one of my athletes that. Why would I make the investment in you? Well, I work hard. Don't give me that. What are you willing to do when it's miserable? Are you willing to put yourself out there and live with it and not be embarrassed by the scorecard? If you're embarrassed by the outcome in the scoreboard, then we're in the wrong sport. Because I've been embarrassed. I always tell players, if you want to know what it feels like to be embarrassed, be a pitcher that gives up a home run. You sit out on the mound, they run the bases around you, the umpire waits to throw you the ball back, everybody's looking at you. You just stand there. It's awful. I gave up plenty of them. But then you have to come back and face the next hitter, because you have to be that dude that shows back up. Are you going to let that previous failure beat you, or are you going to use it to make you better? And what I think is, we've got to get so good at dealing with the uncertainty. We got more uncertainty we've ever had in our lives right now. But you know what? There are some superstars that are lining up, getting ready to dominate this world because of it. They are waiting as other people's impatience and other people's stubbornness and fear that are building. There's going to be somebody that's going to go, you know what? I got a solution here. Interest rates are extremely low. There's opportunities out there. This is my time to go. And I've told every one of my athletes, there's somebody out there training harder than you. But don't ever meet them. Don't ever meet them. Because, because I don't want you to ever find the person that outworked you. Like, you can make it up in your mind that somebody's outworking you. I just don't want you to ever find that person. I just want you to, it's the Kobe Bryant approach. You want to know a separation? Outwork me, because you can't. You can't. Jerry Rice, same way.
But you just said working hard is not the ticket.
No, everybody does it. It's a standard. It's like, business owners, right?
But is it important to outwork people?
Hell yeah, it is. But don't make that as a factor. That should be a given.
That's like a common thing in athletes.
Hell yeah.
Especially in MMA.
In anything. Look, the NFL guys, right? They're in their off season. The ones that are sitting at home playing Madden, they're not doing well. The ones that are watching film. I had a player tell me, a player I worked with in the NFL, they had a player that joined their team 2 games in. Guy's a future Hall of Famer. He just hasn't come up for the Hall of Fame ballot yet. The guys are sitting in the back of their film room, and they're all chilling out, hanging out, laughing at the film, making fun of each other. This new guy shows up. He shows up with a binder, with pens, with sticky notes, and he sits in the front row of film study. He changed clothes. He went and put on slacks, shirt, and his glasses, and he sat in the front row. Now, thankfully, my guy's still in the league too, but he turned to his young guys and said, that guy's going to be in the Hall of Fame. See, you're taking this time off. You can't outwork that guy. That's the standard, right? Hard work is a standard. I don't need somebody to tout their hard work. What I need to do, that guy, what made him great was he found the edge. He found the angle. At 36, he still found a way to sack the quarterback, which is crazy, right? And so when somebody is driven and they know what they want and they're willing to make the sacrifices to accomplish it, then it becomes, you become relentless because you just can't let go, because I know I'm going to achieve it, but I'm going to have to adapt along the way. And that's why hard work isn't something to tout. What you have to show me is how you figured it out. You have to solve the puzzle. I mean, it's just like you and I having a conversation about our learning platform. My first cut at it wasn't very good, but it wasn't very good. It wasn't good, but it took a hard conversation with us in our office. It took a hard conversation with you. Like, you put the screen up and go, that sucks. It was literally what you said. That's not good. And it was like, well, you're right. It wasn't good. We knew that. Okay. You wait till you see this next one. But that's what I needed. We all need that.
Well, how do we get that out of our children and our students and our employees? What type of, like, I guess I would consider, like, Catalyst School is something I would attend to get more from my team.
100%.
Because listen, I'll tell you, I'm the first one to tell you, like, I try to read the leadership books and I'll come in and try to do things, but it's just my personality. It's almost like, maybe it's just abrasive, but for some reason, I think I'm cursed in some cases where I don't think I can get the most out of people. I think I just hopefully find people that do their best. In other words, I think I'm a terrible leader.
Well, I am too. Okay. And I'm going to say this in true honesty. When I switched to the business world, I was a great employee and I managed people well when I was in an organization. But when it became my organization, I sucked at it because I got frustrated when other people didn't follow what I did. And so they would come in and I would fall into the game of, I got to love them. You got to make sure that they have a nice little lounging area in the office. They got to have the right kind of Keurig in the coffee machine, until I realized they were drinking more damn coffee than producing. Okay. And so what happened was, as soon as you start calling for accountability, everybody gets pissed off at you, because the number one pastime in this world is transfer of blame. It's not their fault that they're not doing a good job. And a really good friend of mine told me, who's a large CEO of a large company, he said, you just got to get rid of people as fast as you hire them. He says, never personal. It's your ass on the line. Well, that's, as a head coach, it's easy. If I bring you into my organization, my job is to win games. I'm just not going to play you. But in business, we don't have that. I don't have 85 men on my roster. I have one person who's doing 3 jobs. And I went from, this time last year, 7 employees. I've got 1 employee now who makes what the other 7 were essentially making. I found the guy. And what I've done is I've said, can you handle it? And he said, yeah, absolutely, I'll do it. He is, and now if I had to hire somebody else, I would probably go through 5 to find 1. It's just not personal. I've gotten over the personal thing, but we all want people to buy into our vision, and we assume that all those leadership books are written for a reason. If those leadership books were any good, there would only be 1 book on the bookshelf. But there's 5,000 leadership books that tell you what to do. And have we ever actually looked to see what the leadership people lead? Very few of them actually lead. What do we hear about Steve Jobs? He was an ass to work for. Yeah. People lined up to work for him, right? Lee Iacocca was an ass to work for, but people lined up to work for him. Sarah Blakely, I can guarantee you, she may come across socially in a very positive way. She is probably extremely demanding behind the scenes. Why? Because people, great coaches, this whole idea about players coaches, right? You know, like players want to play for a players coach. Well, when you don't have accountability and you don't hold people to their accountabilities, they will go to comfort every time. So you have to be hard. Now, what happens is a great team starts creating standards over rules, where the standards are now being maintained by other people in the organization, where it's like, no, that's not how we do things. So you don't have to be the bad guy. You start having 1 or 2 guys, or men or women, that are like, that's not how we do things. Like, this is what we do. And what happens, it creates a positivity. And you can see that shift happen in an athletic team. It's really hard in business because we pay them a salary and for expectation that we're going to get something in return. But I think we live in a world right now where coaches are in a crisis and managers are in a crisis because we've lost, and this is a bad word to say, but we've lost the power dynamic. So now high school coaches, youth, they cater to the parent. Parent doesn't like the way that little Johnny's playing. I'm going to move him to another school, another team, and you're going to lose my travel ball roster. Or a college coach, happens all the time. I'm terrified to lose a kid because they're going to crush me in the recruiting game. It's not like it used to be where it was you show up and the coach is your authority and you bring the trust with you and you say, make me a better player. And you may have to go through the ugliness for a year until you learn it. But players today, they want players and employees, they want immediate response. They want immediate fun. They want immediate reinforcement. They can't delay it for the hard work and what they're learning. I mean, think about when you and I are about the same age. You remember McDonald's University? They would recruit kids to go work at McDonald's to learn the way of being. There ain't no McDonald's University anymore, is there?
Hamburger
University. Yeah, Hamburger U. Yeah, they used to recruit kids, like go in there and learn the way to be managed. They don't do that anymore. If they do, nobody knows about it. I mean, McDonald's doesn't run across as the place that I would say, but they've got it. You know, Chick-fil-A maybe, not McDonald's.
So if I'm running a crew of, let's say, 60 people, what would be the top 3 things as a catalyst that I should be focusing on?
You need to focus on the people that manage those 60 people. You can't manage them all. Okay. So you've got to separate yourself as a coach. You've got to have assistant coaches and you've got to have a team of 5. That's it. And you got to have 5 people in your life at any given time around you. All right. Number 1, you got to have confidence builders. So on your close circle, you got to have somebody that's telling you you're doing a good job and is maintaining that level of energy and excitement. Okay. So like when you're sitting in a meeting and you're like, man, I had a bad day. That confidence builder is it's not the fluffer, but it's the person's like, look, we did some good work today. Stick with it. Okay. They kind of have a positive outlook. Number 2, you got to have a colleague. You got to have a trusted person that's been in the shoes that you've been in sometimes. In Major League Baseball, they call them bench coaches. That the manager can look over and say, should we bunt here? I don't know. Let's wait a little while because they've sat in that seat. You got to have you got to have a colleague. You got to have a competitor. All right. And the competitor may not be somebody in your organization, but you better know what something is happening with the competitors that you have. How are they doing it? Why are they doing it the way they are? We got to have a tip on that. Then we got to have 2 others on our close circle. We got to have a challenger. The challenger is going to walk in and say, look, Brad, as a leader, we're failing in these areas. You got to be better. We got to do X, Y, and Z better. For you to lead these people, you got to be more out in front. Your emails have got to be more thought out, whatever it is, okay? Then the critiquer is the last one. The critiquer is essentially your asshole. But is the person, if you watch Billions, it's Wags, okay? Wags is honest to tell Axe everything. He doesn't filter. He tells them, but he makes them better. They rub on each other. They fight against each other, but they come back to the same core. That critiquer is the person that we often fear getting feedback from. It may be a mentor. It may be an executive coach, but you've got to have those people around you. Then you create that layer. The reason for is you don't need to be caught as a leader on the day-to-day hassles, okay? Your job is the people to lead to get the organizational vision right and the execution. You've got to hold those 6 to 7 people accountable, not 60. 60, you become a babysitter. Okay, Coach Saban at Alabama football has 85 men on his roster that travel, okay, or whatever the total number is when they travel. He can't worry about where a young kid is at 2 o'clock at night. That's the position coach's responsibility, okay? But if he finds out about it before the position coach, there's going to be holy hell to pay, okay? Their job is they need to be ready to perform when I need them ready to perform, and there's layers of responsibility in the organization. Great leaders, when we build it up, we want everybody to buy into our vision, so we think we have to be it becomes unilateral ladders. It can't be. There's got to be levels of authority, and you've got to have the crap has got to sift off before it gets to you. That's the job of the people underneath you, is to not bring you the day-to-day hassles. Take care of that crap.
What if you're a smaller company and you have to wear more than one hat?
That's tough, and that's where we've struggled. And honestly, and I think that's where it comes down to. If you have a smaller organization, then you can't defer many of those choices. You got to build those support people outside of the organization to help you. Okay. Because if you go on Harvard Business Review, or if you read CNN Money, or you read those, you're going to look like a failure all the time. It's the same way as coaches, right? Every coach has an answer as why a player shouldn't have been drafted, but nobody knows what happened in the player's room. Nobody knows the story. Nobody knows that they probably outperformed their level. And great coaching never gets recognized because nobody ever knows about it, right? And that's the same way in a small business. In a small organization, it's not for everybody. And that's why you got to hire very, very slow, but fire very, very fast. And it's not personal.
Who is the best coach ever to live?
The best, I'll say this. I mean, John Wooden was great. Bill Belichick is great, but I've been around two coaches that are the best to ever do it at their sport. My coach in baseball won 5 national titles in 10 years at LSU. He built a program that had 500 people in the stands to leave with 10,000 in the stands every night. And he did it in a way with a vision, and he focused on the details. Brad, this dude would go in the stands and eat the popcorn to make sure it was hot, because his answer was, if I don't have hot popcorn in the stands, the fans are going to get angry at something, and I don't want them to be angry at me. I want them to have a full experience. So he was the best. He ended up becoming the AD at LSU, and then he was the AD when Nick Saban was there, who's now the coach at Alabama. And Nick is the greatest coach I've ever been around when it comes to building program and getting organizational focus and direction. It's tough to work there, okay? But it's also tough to work in certain organizations. But the best of the best, they don't really care. I remember when Coach Saban was hired at LSU, the knock on him was he'll go through 6 coaches every year. Well, the problem with that was new coaches would be lining up. What he was doing is he was getting the guys that could stick it out, who were all in. And most guys, I mean, look, if you want to work for Elon Musk, it's going to be brutal, okay? It's going to be brutal. The stories are unbelievable, but you're going to walk out of there with Elon Musk and Tesla on your resume, right? If you're around great leaders, if you look at the people who are catalysts for you, there were probably some guys and men and women that you had to bust your ass for. And you probably didn't get a whole lot of reinforcement. It wasn't the person who sat there from you at the very beginning and told you how great you are. It was the one that you outworked every day to get their attention, to get their focus, to prove them right. And they probably still sit back there in your head in your mentorship list. And that's what great coaches are. I still, when I meet my coach, he's 81, I still get a little nervous in the stomach when I'm sitting with him.
Do you ever like have to prod and poke people when you're coaching?
All the time.
Is that what a coach really does?
Yeah. And as a psychologist, I'm fortunate enough to help understand the motivations and the wins and the whys. I get to do a little bit more trial and error. I'll give you a story. One of my players on the PGA Tour, who is a big time winner, we've been working on something for a while, right? And this morning he calls me, just this morning, and they've been off for a while. They've never been off this long, and they've been enjoying their time off. And we said, "Hey, dude, what are we doing?" And he's like, "Practicing." I said, "Okay, you have a plan?" "Yeah, I want to have a plan." I said, "So you don't have one today? You're out there practicing, you don't have a plan, but you want one?" I said, "Why don't we get a notebook? Why don't we write down everything that we do between now and the time we return? Why don't we journal it? And then when you get on the airplane, you look at it. And like, you know that you beat everybody else because no one else had the guts to do the simple things." And it took a little while to prod him into doing it. And you have to kind of go through I'm not going to do that, or that's too hard. And then you finally get to it. It's like, look, what's important? It's the same way, right? If you have to beg people to work, if you have to beg people to go into the heat of the moment, they're the wrong people. There's a reason the Navy SEALs, when they ring the bell, they don't beg for them to stay. You already made the choice. Like, if you've already made the choice, you're out. Like, I don't need you.
What about like old Tiger Woods?
Yeah.
Now, when he got popped, okay, it seems like his game went to shit, didn't it?
I think, I don't work with Tiger, but I will tell you this. Tiger was raised in a very difficult environment from a sense of golf was everything. He wasn't the most socially skilled kid. You know, there's a brilliant story, and there's a brilliant article written by Wright Thompson, who's probably the finest American sports writer there is. And he said he was in Vegas, your town, and he's hanging out with Derek Jeter and Michael Jordan, and he's at a bar, and he wants to meet girls, right? And Jeter goes over and talks to a woman and comes back and made it look so easy. And Tiger goes, "Derek, how did you do that?" And Derek goes, "Hi, I'm Tiger Woods. that's how you do it. Like, he just didn't have that skill set. Well, what happened was he worked from a sense of probably guilt. So he'd go out work, he'd work. Then he felt like, and he said this in his own words, I felt like I deserved it. So he didn't really have a whole lot of respect for people. That's why who he tended to hook up with tended to have more lower self-esteem. There were people who needed, and he could buy their loyalty. But what happened was that he'd feel guilty. So how did he resolve his guilt? He'd go train harder. Then he'd train so hard that he felt like he deserved it again, and it was a cycle. It made him really good. But managers can't keep the drama and the trauma from getting into their performance life. It will get them eventually. And it did for him. And what happened was, I think the renaissance of his career was when he was the assistant captain of, I think it was the Ryder Cup. He just was great being around the boys again, who grew up really not fearing him because he was out of the game for a little while. And he all of a sudden was one of them, and it got him fired back up again. And he's probably got a little bit better. He's grown up a little bit more, and he's gotten a little bit better and more comfortable with himself. He's got a broken down body. I mean, I think we all know that. But
so how do you get a broke down body from golf?
Well, he trained like a linebacker, and his stories are pretty epic. He trained and he trained hard. He didn't train. He ran 5, 6, 7, 8 miles a day as hard as he could. You know, he would take his dog out and run his dog, and then wait till his dog got tired. And then that was the turnaround point. And then
golf?
he would have, just anything. He would go out for runs. Like he was so into the physical training that I think he lost his way of what the sport was he was playing.
I think and I'm just saying it because it's my opinion. Obviously, you're the psychologist, but I think he should have just said, "Hell yeah!" Like I think he should have owned that shit.
Well, you know what though? What's the secondary?
Same thing with Bill Clinton, dude. Like again,
yeah.
Bill Clinton, like, dude, he got a blowjob. So what? Dudes get blowjobs. Just because you're the president doesn't mean you don't get blowjobs. I would have owned it if I was.
You know what's so funny?
I would have.
But you know what's so funny? Look at the evolution of who we are as people, right? I can remember living in Louisiana in 1991, and my parents had a lady over for dinner, and she was the secretary of the Democratic National Convention. And my family's grown up Republican and conservative. My dad was military for 20 years. Okay, so, but we're having dinner, and she was a great lady. And she goes, God, there's this dude in Arkansas that is he's the new JFK. He just loves sex. And we've got to keep that stuff quiet because, I mean, it is deep. Well, all of a sudden he gets elected, and she's like, I don't remember ever saying that. We're like, come on, he's more authentic. Where did he win? He won from his authenticity of playing the saxophone on Arsenio Hall, right? And we look at politicians today. We look at people. Michael Jordan was a flawed guy. Okay, why would we expect him to be squeaky clean? He liked to gamble. So what? That's the drive. And I think you look at that, it's like, well, they're not going to be marketable by Nike. No, I think most people that are wearing Nike shoes are flawed people. I think we're better off if we realize we're all imperfect and we're all a work in progress. And sometimes we make mistakes. I mean, we screw shit up. We screw things up all the time. How many times have you sat in your business and said, oh, I should have handled that better? Well, so what? You learn from it. As long as your intentions are, yeah, dude, every day. And that's the thing I think people have to realize is that we're so freaking hard on ourselves. We lack compassion towards ourselves. And we hold ourselves to a freaking standard we can't live up to. And it creates this judgment that's on our ass every day versus going, do people really matter? Does it really matter if I've screwed something up? Like, I would love for somebody to run for public office and say, you know what? I do this, this, and this. I mean, drug use isn't an issue anymore. It used to be, right? Oh my God, did he or inhale or not? Now it's like, yeah, I smoked. I mean, Barack Obama, yeah, I used this at one time, but I got to, okay. It was a perfect example of the steroid era, right? In baseball. They do the steroid thing. Bud Selig, an idiot, wants to run out and get everybody prosecuted for using steroids. If you watch the game, you realize that they were freaking WWE wrestlers out there. Andy Pettit, a left-handed pitcher from New York Yankees, with Roger Clemens, goes, yeah, I tried it. I'm sorry. It was a bad mistake. I felt the necessary. I thought I had to use. I made a mistake. And everyone went, oh, okay. Roger Clemens has refused to acknowledge it, and people want to skewer him. They had the same trainer. Of course he used. Okay? Just come out and say, you know what? I made a mistake. I used. So what?
Like Lance Armstrong.
100%. Just admit it. People forget about it. People don't care.
Not only that, I think psychologically, that's what I was going. I think psychologically it helps you. I think if Tiger would have said, yeah, I've been pounding a lot of ladies. Dude, I'm Tiger Woods. I get more offers than you do. Like, people don't understand. A lot of times there's a joke that says you only cheat based on your opportunities. Yeah. Again, I know that there's people like me that won't cheat. I just won't cheat. Not that I won't think about it, not that I haven't been tempted to, but my resolve is strong. Now, again, I still say the wrong situation, the wrong time, the wrong, like, you're drunk. It's your dream girl, shit that'll never happen. So I never say never, but I would never cheat. But if I did and I got caught cheating, I'm going to tell you I did it. I think Tiger would have done that. I don't think his game would have tanked.
No, and I think the problem was he had a Swedish model as his wife. So I think people couldn't understand, but it's like, how do people look at, how are people who are wealthy unhappy, right? When you're not wealthy, all you want to be is wealthy to take the stress off of that. And you look at wealth and you think, how can that be? It's that constant game of comparisons. But the truth of the matter is, when it comes to cheating, the best line I've ever heard is, if you're going to cheat, you better cheat with somebody who has more to lose than you do. And most people don't. And so that's why it gets out. Or I say if you're going to cheat, you better be cheating with someone that you'd leave your wife for. Well, that's a whole nother thing. As a buddy of mine said, it's not worth the millions I have in the bank.
But what's funny is like, when you cheat, if you're like, you better cheat with someone you'd leave your wife for. Why? Because you may have to. But what's funny is most people don't.
Why most people cheat?
You're cheating with some scumbag. You're cheating with some loser. Yep. And by the way, ladies cheat just as much. They're just better at it. And let me tell you something. If a guy will bang your wife, right, that guy is willing to break up a family, which makes him a piece of shit. And vice versa, if a girl does it. So again, anytime two people cheat, in my opinion, they have to realize that there's nothing good about the people willing to break up families and kids.
But here's the bigger issue, right? The reason why people cheat is they're cowards. They're not willing to share their feelings in the relationship they're in, so that what they really do deep down, they want to get caught. Now they say, oh, there's no way. People say, there's no way. Never want to get. Yeah, you do. You want to get caught because you're too much of a coward to admit to the person that you're in a relationship with that it's over. So what you do
you're
is
unhappy.
You're unhappy. What you do is you go create a secondary game deep down. I've worked with too many people who've got too much on the line, and when they get caught, they go, yeah, man, I just should have been honest. I'm like, yes. I mean, you're failing the person every day by not being honest with them. And the person you're not being honest with is yourself. You're not that damn attractive that everybody's falling all over you. The fact is,
Speak for yourself.
I know. Yeah, you got a better look than I do. But the truth of the matter is, the people that know that you're married that are willing to hook up with you are the ones that are willing to break up a relationship. Okay. Anybody who's like, oh, hell no. Like, I've got a great client right now who's met a lady. He went through a long relationship. He broke up with her, and she's like, I know that you were with somebody when we met. They didn't cheat. They were mutual in the same circles. She's like, I'm not dating you right now. I like you a lot, and if it's meant to be, I will be here in 6 months. And it's driving him crazy, right? But the reality is, he's like, I kind of respect that. I'm like, hell yeah, I respect that. She's told you she likes you. She's told you she wants to hang out. Is it going to take 6 months? No. But what's going to happen is, she said it's important enough. I'm like, that's a high integrity person. If she's willing to put that on the line like that and be patient, then, she's broken off 2 dinners just of friends because she's like, I know where it's going. I don't want to be that girl. I think we have something. And I'm like, it's the same way of what we do, right? It's the same way of whatever we're trying to grow and develop. Like, there was when you look at people who cheat in business, right? If you look at people who cheat in sports, the Houston Astros cheated, the Boston Red Sox cheated, the New England Patriots cheated. Okay, there's no doubt. They all cheated. And there's other cheaters that haven't been caught. Houston Astros were signaling pitches to their hitters. That's cheating, okay? That is blatant. But what happens is you cross a little bit of a line, nobody checks it, a little bit more, and that comfort zone just keeps getting moved. Well, we can do the same thing with success. We don't have to cheat to have success. I want to be able to lay down my head at night and know that I did it the right way. And I think 98% of coaches will. And
not to mention, it won't last if you keep cheating. I'm telling you.
Never does. It's like talking to a kid. A kid's lying to you. You just keep asking questions. They will tell you the truth. I mean, you can't sustain the lies long enough. So yeah, that's the Tiger Woods story.
So if I were to join Catalyst School as just a father wanting to be a better dad, you know, can you, because I bet you there's a lot of people out there listening to this, that everything kind of, you know, equates to business. But man, when you start to look at, like, you got a couple of kids, there's a lot of parents out there, they don't know how to be parents. And that resonates with them more than employees. Like, in other words, like if I screwed up my kids, I'd feel worse than screwing up a business.
Well, let me go to youth sports here for a second, right? I screwed up with my oldest daughter. She's a great kid. But when she played high school golf, she'd look over on the side. And if you've ever walked high school golf, it's dreadful, okay? It's long. You're out there all day. And she'd hit a bad shot. And I'm sure I'd have oh, man, one of those, okay? And so finally she looked at me one day afterwards. She goes, "What are you so upset about?" I said, "I'm not upset." She goes, "Yes, you are. I can see it." And I realized that we project that very easily. When I pitched in the College World Series, it was 25,000 people. I could hear my dad's whistle. Like, I knew his whistle. We're so conditioned to hear our parents, right? That's why our kids, they always reject us. They're like, "Rrr," you know, they bounce back immediately. They resist. Some dad down the street can pass them and give them the same advice, and they think it's the greatest thing in the world. So what I realized was I had to change my attitude out there. I wore sunglasses. I chewed sunflower seeds so she couldn't see my mouth. And I listened to podcasts, and it worked. And so parents, the number of kids that when the parents leave the room, the kid goes, "Can you get them off my back?" Like, you may want it for your kid, but let me help you. Like, you love them so much, you're squeezing them to death. Give them the responsibility to grow. Just because you may understand it or you see it, parenting is hard. It's the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. It's the hardest thing you've ever done in your life, and guarantee it. My wife is genius at it. I'm sure yours is too. But it's hard because you're dealing with living, breathing individuals that you're shaping. And I've screwed up a ton with them. But at the end of the day, you know, the intentions are good. And it's like, we got to connect to them. My two daughters are 4 years apart. They're completely different human beings. You got one who's outgoing and bubbly, and the other is real calm, thing. You got to know who they are at their core, and what motivates them, what inspires them, what challenges them. Because if not, what happens is all you're doing is putting a billboard up and saying, "Follow that." I don't believe in billboard motivation. I believe in individualized motivation, individual connection. Connection is the number one thing that we have. People, you go to a meeting, you go to somewhere and you're like, "That person, we had a great conversation. What'd you talk about?" "I'm not sure, but I know they cared." That's the connection that we got to have.
Out of all the sports, which one's your fave?
I mean, look, I love college football in the Southeast. You know, a college football game in the Southeast is religion. NFL's cool, but college football drives it. I love a great baseball game. My dad passed away 10 years ago. I'd killed to go back to a game with him and eat roasted peanuts. I love watching golf, but golf's business for me. Every weekend I've got players up near the lead, so I can't watch a tournament. And if I watch a tournament and they're not up near the lead, I'm pissed off they're not up near the lead at myself. But I love college football. There's nothing better than 100,000 fans. That I'm hoping we can get back to that soon, where, it's the fever. You ever been to an SEC football game?
No.
Okay, you need to. I'll change your life. It's NFL's good. You're going to come down to one. I'm telling you.
How important is visualization?
It's good. I think there's a great thing that we used to follow, a great line from an old motivational guy, which is, anything you ardently desire, sincerely believe in, vividly imagine, and enthusiastically act upon must come to pass, right? If you can't see yourself doing it, well, then brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. So you ever have somebody who's afraid to fly, right? They get freaky right before they ever get on an airplane. Well, they're not really seeing it. They're not in it. They're projecting it. Their brain is running that pathway.
Oh yeah.
So you got to see yourself in those situations, but don't just see the good stuff. See the bad stuff too. Like, too many of us are projecting all the good stuff. Like, this sales meeting is going to go great. Well, what happens if the guy walks in 10 minutes late and you can't, and they won't give you any time? Can you work through that? So run those trials in your head to see yourself in that, and impart and put in the value of what you're doing. Visualization is the key. One of the best ways to visualize without having to do it is to speak it. It's just speak yourself into doing it. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to go talk to my team, and this is how I'm going to start. This is what I'm going to say, and run through those scripts in your head. You don't have to memorize the whole thing, but that visualization of how to manage it. And I always want people to visualize how they leave too. Who's leaving that meeting? Do you feel like you nailed it? Do you feel like you won it? Or do you feel like you should have? If you walk out of there with your tail between your legs and you see yourself doing that, then you need to face that fear and rewrite it because it's not working for you.
So if someone's like trying to visualize a win, but they keep visualizing a loss, like in other words, lack of self-esteem, how would one fix that?
Well, first you got to realize is the way the brain works, right? What's the job of the brain is to keep you alive. Okay. Let me use this analogy. I take you in the backwoods of Alabama and I say, Brad, I'm going to drop you off and you got 8 mile hike to this cabin at 8:00 in the morning. You're like, cool, got it. You go. If I take you and drop you off at 8:00 at night and say it's an 8-hour walk, you're like, okay, is there light? You start hearing noises. You become a little bit hyper. If I tell you there's been a bear attack on that trail, now you're really listening to everything. You're overanalyzing everything. That's the way the brain works. Here's the difference. If I trained you on how to kill a bear and gave you a gun that could kill a bear in one shot, right? And I said, look, if you can kill a bear, it's a bonus. Now I've changed your mindset. Now you believe in yourself. Well, the mind is always going to send thoughts out to test the environment. Oh, crap, is this going to be safe? Am I going to do a good job? You're never going to have a positive thought in the heat of the moment, ever. So what you have to do is learn to listen to it and then say, yeah, no kidding. And then replace it with a positive. What we try to do, and this is important, people try to suppress negative thoughts. People try to suppress fear. They try to suppress insecurity as if it's a negative. It's not a freaking negative. It's normal. Okay? So when we suppress, what we're saying is, I can't handle that. Just write it. What's the worst that's going to happen if you're nervous going into a meeting? What's the worst thing that's going to happen if a bear, well, if you trust that you have a bear gun, you know how to hunt bears, guess what? You shoot. We give it a shot.
Are people allowed to call you? Like not the high dollar clients, but like if I join Catalyst School, are we allowed to call? Like, can we talk to you a little bit?
Yeah, that's what I do. That work? I'm a shrink. You just call my office and we get set up and we have meetings. Don't you have like a live call every week? Every week on Catalyst Live will be once a week. Once a week, we're going to have a live Zoom. We're going to talk about different topics that are relevant and purposeful. I'll also have some killer guests that come on there. But really, it's all about the concepts and the ideas that I see with individuals, and it's going to be 100%. And I mean, it's in person. It's a front row seat to what I do on a daily basis. And I think that's the greatest thing. But listen, interaction is what makes me tick. If I'm not working with people, then I'm not doing my job. I'm not a behind-the-scenes guy.
So I'm going after like business owners. I'm thinking business owners can do this. Parents can do this. This Catalyst School is really designed for all people, but it's also great for coaches that are running like intramural teams that aren't really funded well, or what? Like if I'm a coach of my kid's soccer team, is this for me?
Absolutely. I mean, look, if you want to know what the best coaches in the world do, but you don't have access to them, I'm going to give you the insight into that. But you know what's funny? You know the number of high-level coaches that have bought into this already? Like you look at them and, it's ridiculous because coaches never get the opportunity to learn from other coaches outside their genre. They don't. They go to conferences, the gymnastics conference. They have 6 gymnastics coaches up there. They don't know what the football coaches are doing. It's amazing that when I talk to coaches and I say, oh, yeah, the football team's doing this, they're going, no shit, really? Yeah, okay. And they get to share. And we're all sports fans. We all want to get better. But, you know, the best coaches are not always in the highest paying jobs. Sometimes the best coaches are the ones that are organizing and getting the kids to love their game. But, you know, how do you manage parents, right, at a youth intramural level? If you're working with intramural kids and you don't know how to keep them excited, you're going to lose them all. You're going to be out of a job.
Why don't you make this offering to like Pop Warner to keep those fights from the parents? And because dude, you should have an umpire night.
Yeah, we should, shouldn't we? We'll do that.
Well, because a lot of those umps, dude, they suck, and someone needs to train them.
But what are the umps? I mean, that's the funny thing, right? This is the problem I have with organizations. The organizations, when those umpires are getting beaten up on, where are the organizational leaders? You can't be a leader of an organization sitting at home having dinner when your most exposed people are out there, you know, doing that. It doesn't work in the military. You can't send out, you can't be at home eating your good stuff and your soldiers are out there. You've got to have your leadership embedded with them and understand what they're going through and give them the support. Like, that's why great coaches and great teams will always say it stops with me. Okay? You want to complain about the offensive coordinator's play calling? Blame me. I'm the one that gave them the game plan. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. We don't ever know that. We don't know what the real story is. But for those organizations, something like Catalyst, that would build them up to say, you know what, you want to help your umpires get better? Then let's get a plan together. Let's get a plan that actually empowers them on how to do conflict resolution. Don't give them a pamphlet. They ain't going to read. Give them real live training where somebody says, you want to deal with a parent who's out of control and not escalate? It's kind of like the police, right? I have a friend of mine who was a SWAT team officer. He said, the number one reason why SWAT or police officers get in trouble is that their adrenaline hits and they keep saying the same thing over and over again to a suspect. Suspect gets pissed. Like, get down. He's already down. Get down. He's already down. Eventually that dude's going to be like, screw you, dude. Like, I'm doing what you're telling me to do. You're not paying attention. So they have to train them over and over again to do conflict resolution. For an umpire, you're sitting there and your parents are yelling at you. If you're listening, it doesn't matter how rude it is. The minute you engage them, it's over. You can't engage an irrational human being. You got to let the crowd around them do it. They may all get behind it for a second, but eventually people will say, okay, look, we got to stop. That's stupid.
Well, dude, I had a shitty coach growing up. People don't believe me, but I ran a 4.40. That's fast.
That is fast.
Yeah, and I hit pretty good too. So I played baseball and football. Now baseball, I either cracked a home run or struck out, and usually struck out. But man, I could crank that ball. I could throw the ball farther than anybody. So again, sure enough, they put me in the field, which I didn't really like. Went out for wrestling, but didn't like the sweat in my face. Basketball kind of didn't really like. So baseball and football, I was very good at both. But my coach, and I don't really remember this specifically, but my coach sucked because when I lipped off and quit, he didn't stop me. He didn't rescue me from myself. Now, is that a coach's fault? I mean, obviously I take responsibility all these years later, but like, why would a coach let a kid with that kind of talent walk?
Because they didn't know how to handle you.
That's right. So
great coaches don't hold grudges.
Yeah, but
great managers don't hold grudges.
I know, but that's why I'm excited about this Catalyst School because, dude, not only are you going to help coaches be better coaches and excite kids and win more teams and build confidence, you're going to save kids that are
Hell yeah.
currently under average coaches.
100%. Look, the number one reason why kids stop playing the game is they burn out. It's the same reason why people leave companies. They get frustrated with their manager or whatever. People quit their sport because their parents or their managers or their coaches don't make it fun, right? It's all, yeah. I mean, look, can we drop the F-bomb on this?
Sure.
Okay. So there's a great story. My coach had his 80th birthday. We all get back together. It's a massive party. There's alcohol. I mean, we're having a blast, right? We're telling all these stories, and some of them are really, if they ever got out, would not be good. But anyway, he looks around and he goes like, there's not a milk drinker in my group. We're like, no, you raised us to be assholes. You raised us to fight. There's a classic story. They're in the national title game. And he had this kid that came out of nowhere in the second half of the year that won him a national title as a pitcher. This kid was gutsy. He was nails. He just fought so hard. But for a year and a half, he called him the wrong name. And he knew it bothered him. But he just kept calling him the wrong name. And the national title game, he goes, Rutledge, go down and get loose. His name was Hodge. His last name was Trey Hodges. The other kid was Trey Rutledge, who I played with, who he hated. Okay, he sends him down, and the player's like, fuck, it's my last game to play. We're in the national title game. He still calls me by the wrong fucking name, right? He gets out on the mound. Coach walks out, and it's major moment in the game. National title game, 8th inning. And coach walks out there, and he saunters out. He just kind of walked out there, and Hodges looks at him and goes, fuck you, coach. On the mound. You could see it. Fuck you, coach. And Skip, my coach, turns and goes, whoa, well, fuck you too. And then they just kind of looked off into the thing and goes, okay, so here's what we're going to do. Like, it was over. Like, it was nothing. It was no grudge. Like, he needed him to release that. He did. Like, coaches, managers, don't hold grudges. Your people suck, okay? Some of your people suck. Some of them are superstars. The ones that suck, stop swimming out in the ocean to save the ones that are going to drown. You're the reason they're drowning, and you're going to drown with them. Get rid of them. Okay.
Is that the final answer? I mean, like if I said, dude, man, I've tried, your answer would really be, dude, clip these sumbitches fast and hire them slow.
It's not personal. It's not personal. I failed at that so many times, but every time I've gotten rid of people, I'm like, thank God. Because what happens is you get done and you realize it's shit work. And it's on teams, you can't always do that, but you still have to give them a role and a way to do it, right? But as a business, you're going to spend so much energy trying to change somebody who doesn't want to grow and change. If you suck at your job, but you have a great attitude, I'll find a role for you. Like literally, I can find a role for you. But if you don't want to be there and you don't want to learn, then why are we wasting time? Oh, they're stealing money out of your bottom dollar. That's all they're doing. They're stealing from you.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend. He used to play wide receiver for the Dolphins, the Vikings. So anyway, he's played for like 10 teams. And I'm like, I was asking him like, what it feel like? He says, dude, they don't give a shit. Yeah. He said, literally when he got dumped by the Dolphins, or maybe it was the Vikings, but literally his locker was getting cleaned out before he even walked over there, meaning someone told the dude to clean out the locker before they even told him that he's gone. Yeah. And he said it doesn't matter. Like it's all business. They don't give a rat's dick about your feelings. It's just boom. You're done.
But here's the deal. The best teams find the players that are the glue guys, right? They find those guys and they go, I need him in my locker room and I need him at my practice. He may not be the best center in the league, but he holds accountability to everybody in my locker room. I had a teammate like that who played long time in the major leagues. Everywhere a manager went, he showed up. Why? Because he owned that locker room and he knew how to do it. And so what happens is the teams and the organizations that aren't very good, they don't have a problem paying a big salary for a guy and then they're stuck with him. Then they have a bunch of just pieces. Okay. Well, I use in business when I'm teaching, I compare Chick-fil-A and McDonald's, right? You go to McDonald's, they don't care if the tables are dirty. They don't care if there's ketchup hanging from the thing. They don't care about any of that crap. Their ice cream machine's never working, right? But it's good enough. We're number one in the world, but they still suck, right? You only eat there because it's cheap and it's fast. Nobody ever goes, my God, that burger is the best burger in town, right? Go to Five Guys. Five Guys is the best hamburger around. I mean, I'm a little partial to that over In-N-Out, but I'll give In-N-Out credit. But Chick-fil-A, they have a culture and organization. People are fighting. There's accountability. You sit down at Chick-fil-A, if there's something on your table, it's an anomaly. McDonald's, that's a standard. I go in there at 5:30 in the morning a lot for breakfast when I'm on the road. It's always dirty.
Dude, what are you going to McDonald's for?
Because you can get eggs and sausage.
You know what? Their pancakes are pretty damn good.
No, their pancakes are good. But here's the thing, right? If you look behind their McCafe and it smells like soured milk at 5:30 in the morning and the garbage can's not emptied, who the hell had a party at 4 o'clock in the morning? The truckers? That means somebody didn't take out their shit the night before. They didn't do their job. So what do you think your kitchen looks like?
That's just a bad culture, isn't it?
It is. It's terrible. But they're selling out to the easy, right? Why is Delta the best airline? I mean, people may fight at me with this. Delta's the best airline to fly now because there's a standard across everything that they do. Okay?
What is it?
Well, first of all, their CEO, which I'm not saying every CEO has to do this, but he's donated his bonus back to the employees every year. Now, he's already making millions, so it's not like he's suffering. But it's an execution and a standard of excellence in everything they do, from their Sky Clubs to the way that they book. If you have an issue and you go on Twitter and like, damn it, Delta, they get on the phone with you immediately and they take care of it. They don't blame you. I got left in Seoul, South Korea as a diamond in first class. They left 20 minutes early. Air Korea screwed up. Korean Air screwed up. They left me there. It was fine. I got a good dinner on them in a nice place. Not only did they make it up, they bent over backwards to make sure. They didn't blame me. I mean, it wasn't my fault, but it was the fact. Their answer was, man, that flight probably shouldn't have been booked because it was too close of a window in an international transfer. But that's our fault. They took full responsibility for it.
Well, bending over backwards is what good companies do, but bending over forwards, that's what great companies do.
Exactly. You know, there's two types of people. Ready for this? All right. There's two types of people.
Now you can't share this with all your college buddies.
Right. There's two types of people. There's reactors and there's responders. Reactors see threat on the horizon. They see shit coming, and they're so worried what people are going to think about them. They panic.
That's the reactor?
That's the reactor. Okay. Oh God, Brad's going to be upset. Oh God, my customers are going to realize we screwed up. The responder sees threat on the horizon and goes, we may wear this one, but we're going to get better because of it. We're going to figure something out. We were unprepared for this, right? Our country is a freaking reactionary country. Everybody's running around looking to blame who's at fault for COVID. Are you freaking kidding me? Biggest virus we've ever had in our life. Everybody overreacts? Yeah, probably, but that's normal. I think we've overreacted, but let's see how it plays out. At the end of the day, we have to respond. Okay. Things happen. Make decisions that make you better in the long run. If you're all about threat avoidance and not having to wear it, you're going to wear it a lot more.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. I tell you, that's a bomb right there. I always tell people, I think part of why I became successful, and again, successful according to me, there's some that'll be like, dude, you're not successful. But according to me, I am. I think I've succeeded. And I think I got a long way to go, mind you, but I've succeeded beyond what most people thought I would and beyond kind of technically what I thought I would. And I think the reason why is because when I got up in the morning, I didn't avoid problems. I looked for problems because I think when you solve the problem, you're closer to the end result. So I used to wake up and instead of avoid problems, I would go after them. Yeah. I would look for them, and I got really good at solving problems. So now I'm really good at solving problems. Give me a problem, I'll solve it faster than most people. It's like
it's not personal. It's not personal for you. It's a challenge.
Exactly, and it's like Vanilla Ice says, "Give me the hook, like something, revolve it." I'm always like, "Give me a problem, and I'll solve it." So at the end of the day, I look to solve problems. I don't mind problems, and most people avoid problems, and I think that's a factor to my success. And I tell people, look for problems. Don't be afraid. Don't avoid them. And what you just said is what'd you say? Something about problem avoidance? Disaster
problem
avoidance?
Yeah. Pilots don't fly to not crash. Okay. They have a plan in case they have an emergency landing. They're prepared for it. Okay. Same as business. People are sitting there. People are sitting there right now in business and going, oh shit, what the hell's going on? Well, you know what? Some great restaurants have figured out a way to deliver food and still make a living. Okay. There are organizations that have figured it out.
Most people are thriving right now, believe it or not.
Yes. Here's the deal, right? The people who feel powerless to control their environment. That's the biggest problem of American society, is when we don't feel empowered to find our way through our circumstances. I always relate back to a guy who wrote this brilliant book from when he was in a concentration camp in World War II. And his name was Viktor Frankl. And his answer was, if you can find any reason for your struggle, you can succeed, because you ultimately control your perspective. You can sit here and say, this failed, this failed, this failed, this failed, but I can still wake up the next morning. But if you say, I don't know why I'm failing and life hates me, then you're going to be a failure. It's just what it is. But somebody is going to hustle you. Somebody's going to outwork you. Somebody's going to outthink you. Somebody's going to outguts you, because somebody's like, I'm not willing to accept my circumstances. I'm not. Yeah. And I think, is nobody who hoists a trophy, nobody who wins, has success is surprised by it. Okay. They're also not done. You'll never be done until you decide that you're done, and which will be much later than what you ever think it will be. Like, I love it when people say, I want to retire by the time I'm 50. I'm like, what, to do the next venture? Because that always happens, especially for men. Men spend 6 months off chasing whatever they want to chase, and then they're right back into something. But, we're driven by the need to accomplish things. It's part of our DNA. We've got to have accomplishment. We've got to have success. And that drives our brain, that drives our vision to accomplish things. But we also want two other things. We want social acceptance, right? We want people to like us, and we want stability. We want predictability. Well, we live in a chaotic world where social acceptance is really a transient thing, because once we feel comfortable in one social network, what do? We move it up. Like, well, I don't want to be in that room. I want to be in that room, right? And social and accomplishment never lasts long. The joy, the glow of success for you, for me, for anybody in this, any win, most great athletes will say, when are we starting training again? Like, I'm ready to go. Okay, failure lasts a hell of a lot longer, because the mind is saying, don't ever repeat that again. But success happens in an instant, and it's moved on.
Yeah, what's that dude say? My favorite ring is the next one.
Yeah.
Was that Brady?
Yeah. Probably. But that's him. He's 42. He's still doing it. I mean,
dude, what do you think about people that kneel?
Yeah, kneel in the
national anthem. The kneelers, the ones that say, "Hey, I'm not standing for this."
I wouldn't do it. It's their right. We live in a country that they can do it. But every action we have has consequences, and doesn't mean it's going to agree with the masses. And you got to be willing to live in it.
Yeah,
I still believe very strongly that Kaepernick, who kneeled, had a business venture mindset. He had something that he wanted to play, and he's built a platform out of it. Here's the controversial statement for me. We can look at the data about Blue Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, and all that. You know what? Nobody in this freaking country has been gutsy enough to put together a commission to actually answer the question. Why is that? Because it makes too much money being on both sides and playing both sides against each other. Nobody has the guts to say, let's go get the best sociologists, the best police law enforcement people, the best crime victim people, everything, and let's sit down and solve this freaking problem. Nobody's done that. Why? Because it makes too much money to say me against you, and we got to have a boogeyman. And it's a problem, right? Like, if we would sit down, one of my favorite movies, I don't know if you've ever seen it, is Dave. You ever seen that movie?
Dave, it was long time ago.
Long time ago. Dude is a presidential impersonator.
Yeah.
And they do it so the president can hook up with his mistress. And the president has a stroke and is in ICU. And so he's incapacitated, but they don't want anyone to know because he had a stroke while he was having sex with his mistress. So Dave takes over. What does he do? He hires his buddies, a CPA, to balance the budget and says, let's get rid of all this crap. Like, we've lost in a lot of
but he ended up fixing the country, right?
100%.
Because he didn't know he was supposed to leave it screwed up for the business end of things.
Correct. Like, that's the whole thing. I worked in the pharmaceutical industry for 8 years. There's brilliant innovation in the medical side of pharma. There's also business, and whenever there's business, there could be ethical violations, right?
Of course.
But at the end of the day, what do we want? We want a good society. But people that need to live on the government, it gives the government jobs. Well, the government gives jobs to contractors. And it's this unbelievable feeding cycle that we're all feeding off of. Nobody wants to solve the problems. Nobody wants to say, what do we need to do to get better? Okay. What do we need to do to give people the opportunity of this, this, and this? Okay. The other thing too is nobody wants to take personal responsibility. So if you ask people, hey, would you like to serve on this committee? They're going to say, well, what am I getting paid? And what can I turn this into? Versus, you know what? I'm going to go on there because we have a problem in our society and I want my kids to live in a better environment.
You mean you might want to run for Congress or president or some shit.
I couldn't get through the background check.
I don't think you believe it or not. I don't think they're
doing that anymore.
Rules are all that stringent. Believe it or not.
Yeah, I look. What do we all have to do, right? My dad was 20 years Air Force. He's a lieutenant colonel. He was C-130 navigator. He did some fun shit. He worked with the guys that did some really high end, really big time stuff. And his whole thing was treat everybody with respect and leave before the press conference starts. If you make the world a better place because of your interactions with people, you don't have to stand up in front of it and tout it. I see so many people in my field. My field is just wrought with this. I did this. I did that. I did this. But yet I work for some of those organizations and I know what they didn't do. Or I work for some of the players. The number of times that somebody has claimed success for working with one of my players, when I ask my players, like, dude, I've never spoken to that guy. Right? But the vast majority of the public, everybody's like, oh, yeah, they're great. It's the same way we have in social media. Go get a fast car, go get some hot chicks in a bikini, sit outside of a rented house and tell them how to sell business, right? Well, how many people have closed like you've closed? Right? You've closed how many more deals than other people?
Quite a few.
Yes, right? But there's somebody out there who's probably teaching how to be a closer that ain't closed shit before. They sell the promise. Great infomercial.
Well, those people never last. I'm telling you, they end up crashing and burning. You watch anybody that's rising, because I used to get jealous of people that were like making all this money dealing drugs, and I thought, man, maybe I should start dealing drugs. Or, they had shady businesses, and I'm like, God, man, maybe I should have a shady business. And at the end of the day, every single one of them have crashed and burnt.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. The money is not worth it. The temporary fame is not worth the long-term pain. Folks, ethics and integrity is the way to go.
Well,
no matter what.
There's the world famous study, the Marshmallow Test. And it was an old study in psychology, and it's been a little bastardized recently, but essentially what they did is they brought these young kids in and they said, hey, Brad, if you can have that marshmallow on the table. I'm going to leave for a few minutes, but if you come back and you haven't eaten the marshmallow, you can have 2. Some of the kids couldn't wait and they ate that marshmallow as soon as possible. And some kids were able to wait. Well, they followed those kids for like 40 years. The kids that could delay gratification had a lot more success in life. The ones that have to have it now because for some reason they don't get it or whatever, they can't delay gratification. And that's a big problem we have. Very few people in our society can delay gratification. Okay? There's very few things that you need to delay gratification that you don't need to delay gratification. Like you need to eat when you need to eat. But you could probably put it off a little bit longer than having to eat 6 times a day. You don't have to, you can delay stuff. If you can delay gratification, the joy will always be better. But the problem is most people don't actually believe that they will have more joy. They don't believe that they can create it. So what they do is they'd rather take the short term than the long term. Well,
what if that kid that waited for the 2 marshmallows died, never got either?
Yeah, it sucks. That would suck, right?
I mean, again, I could argue both points.
You could, but you know what? Would you rather have 1 marshmallow or the chance to have 2? As a business, we can make a short-term deal. As a coach, we can sell out. The problem is you're going to have to deal with that. Okay, you're going to have to deal. What's the next What's the next thing that you're going to have to, that you're not going to be able to delay? Success? What's the average length of time people stay in jobs now? Very short.
I don't know.
I mean, when you look at a resume and somebody comes in to see you and they've got 8 jobs in 8 years, what do you think?
I got to be honest. I would probably think, damn, you bounce around a lot. But yeah. I don't really look at resumes. You know why? They're bullshit.
They're bullshit. Same with letters of recommendation. Now, if I can talk to somebody and they're like, be careful. But usually it's the names of the people they're giving me are going to give them a good recommendation. But if I see a resume, but also at the same time, in today's world, you ask a kid out of college, 8 jobs in 8 years, they say, well, I was moving up. Like they don't think about staying at a job for 2 years in the same job role because mom and dad have told them, God, you're really special at this. Brad should give you a promotion. You stayed late last week. Like I've had employees that literally have called in and said, now they're on salary. They were. I stayed till 6 o'clock doing some filming, so I'm going to come in an hour late tomorrow. That's not how this shit works. Like, that's not how this works. Right?
That's entitlement.
That's entitlement. Like, okay, your time is worth more than me. No, you signed up and it said there would be nights, right? I hate having hours at my office because if I know people are leaving at 5 o'clock, they're waiting at 4:30 to get out of here.
Yep.
If you say, look, I'm going to leave at 2 and I'm going to be back. That's one thing I love about my guy in the office now. Like last night, he loaded up videos at 3 a.m. Now, I didn't ask him to work late. I know why he's doing it. He's hustling. Okay. I respect the shit out of that. And I've told him to stop working like he's working, but he's like, I've got a goal to hit. Well, he's a former athlete. He was an all SEC catcher. He knows the hunt. You met with him. Like when he met with you, he was like, oh my God, I got to get better. I'm like, dude, you're learning how to do this. But to him, it's personal. It's about, he wants to do the job. That's what we all have to find. But you got to tap. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, not only that, dude, I mean, it's not fair to like put me in front of somebody.
But that was good. But you know what? He didn't want to go to somebody unless it was like you.
Well, I want to do it more often with him because what I like is finding people that really do want to like become the best at something.
I bet if you look at your call data, Brett Basham has called in all the time into your call center.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I can guarantee it. You know why?
For the tech support?
Yes. Because he's like, it's a resource. I'm
asking questions. Yeah.
100%. This is a dude that taught himself graphic design, video editing, everything on his own. You know how? YouTube. He just got on and said, oh, I like that. How do you do that? And you know what? He hunts it. I respect the shit out of that.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Where's he? Where'd you find him?
You know what? I hunted him for 2 years. I knew that he played for a coach that I played for, and he was a figure-it-out guy. And he worked at the University of Alabama. He was in leadership development. And I knew he wanted to do something more. He wanted a higher calling. His wife is very successful, and he was a professional athlete, and I knew he wouldn't stop. And we brought him in, and he just slowly kept pushing against the other people in the office, because he'd call me and say, hey, I'm not trying to be a rat here, but dude, we got problems. Like, that's not my gig, and we don't have anything ready. So he would do it and turn it into the people to get them to get it done. And I'm like, that's not your job. And he's like, sink or swim at this point. And I respect the hell out of it.
Yeah. I wish we could find multiple people like that.
Me too. That's why I have one now.
Now, listen, folks, if you guys are wondering, how do I get my team this way? How do I get my kids this way? How do I get my literal team this way? Catalyst School, thecatalyst.school.com. I suggest you go check it out. If you guys want to follow Dr. Bhrett McCabe, you follow him on social media. He drops all kinds of nuggets. The Bhrett is spelled with a B-H-R-E-T-T, folks, B-H-R-T-T. Other than that, Dr. Bhrett McCabe on pretty much all social media. Dude is a freaking machine. You're making, at least in the PGA mostly, right? Winners left and right.
Yep.
And what if there's an athlete? Because, dude, I got a lot of athletes in the bomb squad. What if somebody wants to hire you just as a one-on-one coach?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. If you go to my website, brettmccabe.com, there's a link. All you got to do, or you send me a message on social media, we'll get you set up. I've got a program I take people through, and it's not a program like off the shelf, like here are the 8 steps to being great. It's all about you. And I'm going to spend time with you and figure out what makes you tick and give you the tools. As one of my athletes told me, he said, Bhrett, when I meet with you, I don't know what we do, but all I know is I feel great afterwards. And I said, my job is to take away the shit that you're doubting and that you're insecure about and make you believe in yourself. It's not about rah-rah. It's about getting it done and finding that pathway to tap into it. And that's what's similar. I think that's why my guys win. Because when they're out there in the heat of the moment, they're not thinking, oh, shit, I think Bhrett said to do this. They know what to do because they've been trained to do it. And that's the cool thing. So if they want to get in touch with me, brettmccabe.com, and we'll make them champions. Well,
dude, next time we're open, because I think we'll be open here pretty soon, I want you to fly in so we can sit here proper like in the studio and do part 2. Fair enough?
Absolutely. I'll bring Basham. You can beat up on him some more.
All right. Sounds good.
Yes, absolutely.
Folks, listen, go follow Dr. Bhrett McCabe. I appreciate you listening to Drop Bombs. Share it out to your friends and relatives. And until next time, as always, keep it real.
This is Dropping Bombs with the real Brad Lee. Subscribe at Dropping Bombs.